Is it wrong to want to be noticed? Is it wrong for you to want people to see you? We are a generation that's been labeled the selfie generation. In fact, I wanted to do this morning. Let's see if I can make this work here, right? I've got a camera that's actually working. If I flip it around like this and we go, I'm going to go over here on this side. There you all are. Everybody smile, wave. Everybody look like you're having a good time in church. Both of you. I mean, come on, more than two of you, all right? Okay, all right, here we go. All right, look at you know, I kid you not. Here's the thought, right? You see these people at the political rallies and like, you know, when the seats look empty and you're like, man, that just is really bad. Why don't they cut that out? So I'm going to cut out these first two rows. All right, okay. Oh, yeah, now it looks like people are actually in church. Okay, there we go. Bam, here we go. Yes, all right. Is it wrong? Is it wrong to want to be noticed? Is it wrong for you to want others to think well of you? And I want you to think about that long and hard, because some of you would say no. Some of you would say it's not wrong. Some of you would say, yeah, it's really egotistical and like it's really prideful. And this morning I want to challenge you that I don't think it's wrong to want to be a great person. I don't think it's wrong to want to be seen as successful. I think what you're going to find this morning is we have allowed others to define for us what greatness looks like. And that's where we run into trouble. You may have the wrong definition of greatness. You may have the wrong view of what it means to be seen, to want to be noticed, right? I don't think it's wrong to want to be noticed or seen. I think it's the way we go about wanting to be noticed or seen. You want to be seen. That's why almost every one of you carries a smartphone and you do take pictures. Some of you take more pictures of yourself. Some of you, I've run into people that really don't want to be like, don't take my picture. And you don't take selfies. And I would be curious to know why you don't like your picture being taken. And I would bet it has less to do with humility and more to do with your image of yourself. It's not that you're a humble person. It's not in genuine humility. It's like you don't think very well of yourself, and so you don't want to be photographed. And those are worlds apart. Can we agree? A humble person versus someone that has a poor self-image, and so therefore that's why they don't want to be taken, right? A few years ago, at a Final Four in Dallas, a coach was asked basically about, you know, they do those media days where they bring the coaches and some of the key players in, and they were asking this coach, what makes your team so successful? How did you get here? You know, you've had a great run this year. What is it about your team that has landed you now in the Final Four? And he said, here's what the coach said. He said, on our team, we have a motto, and the motto is this: good people do for themselves, great people do for others. I want a video, got a video that Jason's going to run here. If you want to open your Bibles to Mark chapter 9, we're going to hang out there today at one of the times, and I say one of the times, that the disciples, the followers of Jesus, were fighting or arguing amongst themselves. It wasn't the only time. That's what's of interest to me. Jesus probably had to have the same conversation with these guys 2 or 3 times, which gives me great hope when I have to speak to my children 3 or 4 or 25 times, right? The disciples didn't really get it, okay? And Mark chapter 9 is one of those occasions. And Jason, I think we can run that video.
Jesus left with his disciples and started through Galilee. He did not want anyone to know about it, because he was teaching the disciples that the Son of Man would be handed over to people who would kill him. But 3 days later, he would rise to life. The disciples did not understand what Jesus meant, and they were afraid to ask. Jesus and his disciples went to his home in Capernaum. After they were inside the house, Jesus asked them, "What were you arguing about along the way?" They had been arguing about which one of them was the greatest, and so they did not answer. After, Jesus sat down and told the 12 disciples to gather around him. He said, "If you want the place of honor, You must become a slave and serve others." Then Jesus had a child stand near him. He put his arm around the child and said, "When you welcome even a child because of me, you welcome me. And when you welcome me, you welcome the one who sent me." John said, "Teacher, we saw a man using your name to force demons out of people, but he wasn't one of us, and we told him to stop." Jesus said to his disciples, "Don't stop him. No one who works miracles in my name will soon turn and say something bad about me. Anyone who isn't against us is for us. And anyone who gives you a cup of water in my name, just because you belong to me, will surely be rewarded." Jesus left with his disciples and started through Galilee. He did not want anyone to know. Jesus left with his disciples and started through Galilee.
All right, there we go. Mark chapter 9, verses 33 through 37 is where we're going to hang out today. See if we make this work. Today I want us to talk about the idea of what does it look like to be a great neighbor, okay? And you'll get it there. Flip it to the next screen. I was thinking everybody wants to be seen. This little guy over here, James, has just recently started crawling. And the funny thing about James as he's been crawling is he'll crawl for about 3 or 4 feet, and then he stops and sits and turns around to say, "Hey, are you watching?" And I thought, who teaches him to want to be seen? Do you want to be seen? Do you do things to be noticed? I bet you do. I bet maybe, I don't know if you compute it as such. Can we make this work here? Yep, trying to make it work. Ready, set, go. Can we do it manually? Apologize to you who are watching at home. He says go. I got nothing. Ready, set, go. We think? Something happened. It just went away. Let's see. Here we go. Great people make others feel great. That's what I want us to hang our hat on today, okay? I had a quote here by Rick Warren that said, "Little people belittle people, but great people make others feel great." And then Mark Twain said, "Great people are those who make others feel that they too can become great." What if you were known as someone that when people thought of you, what they thought of was someone that helped them be a better person? What if that's what you're known for? What if you excelled in that? And I'm going to tell you right now what the rub will be for you and why it will be so hard for you to do that. Because you won't be able to promote yourself and others at the same time. And you are hardwired to want to promote yourself. And what will go through your head is this: if you don't promote you, who will? You will be challenged by the internal thoughts of saying, if you don't make yourself look good, who will? And if you don't make yourself look good, others are going to pass you by. And if you don't make yourself look great in the eyes of your bosses, you won't get more money. And if you don't make yourself look great in the eyes of your teachers, you might not get the part, the role, the grade that you want. If you don't promote yourself, you might get left behind. And nobody wants to get left behind, right? And that is the tension that we feel when it comes to trying to do what Jesus said and trying to live out in this culture. And Jesus fully understood it. He got it. And that's what's going on in Mark chapter 9, if you will. I said here that everybody wants to be a somebody. Nobody wants to be a nobody. Everybody wants to be a somebody, okay? And the things that we define greatness by in our culture, I just was sort of spitballing about midweek, and see if any of these resonate with you. We define greatness as what you do or have. Character has really taken a back seat. We don't really care what kind of person you are. We just want to know how much money you have. We want to know where you live. We want to know what kind of car do you drive. We want to know, are you athletic? We want to know, are you really good at something? And it's not so much about your heart. We don't really care less about your heart. That sounds really crass, but if you think about it, and if I were to ask you who are the great people that, if you could list for me the top 5 people you think are really cool, really great people, I would be curious on your list of 5, how many of you put down because of their character? And how many you put down because of what you see that they do or they have? And I'm not faulting us for it. I just want us to recognize that where did that mentality come from? Where did it come from that your view of how cool you are is what model phone you have, what car you drive, what neighborhood you live in, what high school did you go to? Who the heck cares? Why is it such a big deal in St. Louis? What high school did you go to? Because it tells us what? What neighborhood did you grow up in? Did you go one of the all-girls schools and one of the all-boys schools? Is that a big deal? What does that mean? Did you go to, I don't really like to talk about where I went. What is it for you? Everybody wants to be a somebody. How many people serve me? As you get into business, as you get into your jobs, everybody gets, you start at the pecking order, but man, don't you want to be a manager? Don't you want to be a boss? Don't you want to tell people what to do? Don't you want a what? And so one of the ways we define greatness is how far up the ladder are you? How many people serve you? How many people report to you? Because that's kind of a big deal, right? Wouldn't you be a bigger deal if 12 people report to you than nobody? Wouldn't you be a bigger deal if 100 people report to you than 5? And all we're trying to say is that makes me like, whoa. And then my sense of worth comes from those who approve of me. I bet you think like that's just really stupid, that your sense of worth comes from the people who approve of you. Like I bet you half of you in here would say, no, I don't believe that. And I bet, I'm going to tell you something, you're kidding yourself. You know what it's called? We have a nice term for it. It's called peer pressure. Your peers, those whose opinion you value, they go out and buy, they go out and do, they go out and take trips, and they post the trips on Facebook. And you do what? Do you rejoice in their trip? Do you go, man, we can't do that? Man, maybe that's what we need to do next time. Look what they're doing. And all it did was create a desire in you of somebody whose approval you value, approving of you. That's where your sense of worth comes from. That's how you determine, I got to go do this, that, or the other thing. We've got to have X. Parents, you know it when you see it with your kids. What is the argument? Mom, the kid comes home from school and they say, Mom or Dad, I need, and you say, well, you don't need that. And the answer becomes, well, my friend has it.
Everybody else has it.
Right? You want to be a somebody. I'm going to stand before you and tell you there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a somebody. I don't think that in the story we're going to see today that Jesus condemned the guys for wanting to be a somebody. He never chews them out for that. He doesn't scold them for that. He doesn't say that's wrong of you to want to be great. What he does say is the way you're thinking you're going to go about it is that's not good. Mark chapter 9, are you there? You saw the video when they came to Capernaum, his hometown. He had been out the preceding verses. Look at verse 31. I want to back up. He was teaching his disciples, And he said to his disciples, the Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and after 3 days he will rise. But they didn't understand what he meant, and they were afraid to ask him about it. Man, is that not like people today? Totally, truthfully, like why not just say, hey, Jesus, what are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. Nobody dies and comes back to life. That's crazy. But they didn't want to. Why? Were they intimidated by him? They'd seen him do some really cool stuff, and now he's out teaching, and like, oh man, I don't want, the proverbial like, I don't want to ask a dumb question. It's not going to be me. And afterwards you're like, well, yeah, I was thinking that too. So they go walking along the way. He's talking about how he's going to serve and get his life for him, right? He's walking now back to hometown. They came to Capernaum when he was in the house. He asked them, what were you arguing about on the road? He caught him. He caught him. I don't even know. Were they like lagging behind 50 yards because they didn't want to be within earshot? What were you fighting about? What were you verbal sparring about? What were you debating about? Did you watch the debate? That's what this word means. What were you debating about? Peter's saying, well, look, I did, blah, blah, blah. And John's like, well, yeah, but every time we hang out, like he asked me to be on his right-hand side. Poor Bartholomew, what's he got to offer? I don't know, man. I didn't go up on the mountainside. I just had one basket, and I was the last one to get a basket. They're arguing about, they're debating amongst themselves which one of us is the greatest. Who of us is coolest? Who of us is the best? Jesus said, what were you doing? And they kept quiet because on the way they argued about who was the greatest, who was top dog, who was primo, who's closest to Jesus, who's going to be like right there in heaven next to him when he gets in. And I thought, man, I'm glad we're so much better than that we don't do that stuff. We don't argue like that, do we? Do we? You ever find yourself in verbal debates with what? Over what? Stuff that doesn't matter. Two guys arguing about their golf handicap? For the love of mercy, is that what we need, is a 6 handicap? That's not our big issue here, right? This dumb stuff that we argue about. And that's what they're doing. Can you go get James? Can he be rescued? Yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. They kept quiet because on the way they were fighting about who was the greatest, and so sitting down, I asked myself, why did they keep quiet? Why did they keep quiet? Because I thought that was interesting. Would you have stayed quiet? And if you'd have stayed quiet, why would you have stayed quiet? Say it out loud. What do you think?
They were embarrassed.
Huh?
They were embarrassed.
They were embarrassed. Why would you have been embarrassed? Listen, if you're going to be top dog, if you're going to be the best, if you're going to be the greatest, if you want people to see you, why would you be embarrassed admitting it? That's what you want. You want people to see you. You want people to view you as really cool. Now when it gets called out, why don't you want to own it? That's an interesting question. And so it says here, sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, if anyone wants to be first, he's going to be very last. He's going to be the servant of all. And he took a little child. Now, James, buddy, James. You want to say hi to everybody? Say hi. They're all really freaky, aren't they? They're all really crazy, aren't they? Yeah. How's it going today? It's a nice screen. It's a bigger one than you've seen. I know you like screens. Your mommy wouldn't be happy with you looking at the screen right now. Why did Jesus take a child? I think the child was maybe a little older than James, but you get the effect. In the midst of all these adults in the house, Jesus pulled a child in. Why did he take a child? What was there about a child? Why didn't Jesus just take, like, you think? Did you see somebody out there? Did I interrupt you from your class? What are we going to do for lunch? You don't know. I know. It's so much fun. Okay, you want to go back to class? You want to go back to Chima? Where's Chima? Over there? Yeah. Ready? Ready? Yeah, okay. See you, bud. Why did you take a child? I'll come to that. Because I think that's crucial to understanding and unlocking the passage. Because that's what Jesus did for an object lesson. He got everybody's attention, just like I got yours. Everybody's attention came front and center for him to be able to impart and be able to say to them what he wanted them to get. I asked myself this before I get to that question. Why is it difficult to serve other people? Why is it hard for you to put other people first? Why is it hard for me to put other people first? Here's one of the things that I honestly believe, but again, I doubt you'll say out loud. You really think you're better than other people. But that's hard for you to admit because that sounds really like, man, I don't want to sound uppity, but I'm really, and you know the way it comes across? Can I give you a way that's just going to maybe push a button and that's really what I'm intending to do today? You're too busy. You don't have time for other people. You don't want to serve other people because you're too important. Because you've got other things and you can't carve time out of your busy schedule. Because you're so busy running the universe that you don't have time for other people. See, you saying it's too busy, that's sort of cool, isn't it? We're all too busy. I talk to people all the time. How are you? Oh, I'm slammed. Oh, I'm busy. Because to say you're unbusy looks like what? Like you're a schmuck. Like, who wants to say, you know what, I'm just honestly pretty chill. I'm doing okay. No, man, you sound like man, what's wrong with you? We're all like working and just dying out here, right? Seriously? Because if that's the kind of life you're leading, I don't want any part of that. And if that's the kind of life you're leading, I bet you're not happy with it. Honestly, I bet you're not happy with it. They're different from me. The next paragraph, as we saw in the video, John said, "Teacher, we saw a man driving out demons in your name, and we told him to stop because he was not one of us." Every time I hear that, I start laughing. He was stopping bad, evil things from happening, but John said, "You're just not doing it the way we do it." Jesus said, "Don't stop him. No one does a miracle in my name can in the next moment say anything bad about me, for whoever is not against us is for us." They're different. You can't serve people because they're different. Now, it's interesting to think about what's different. What does different look like? Let's take where we right now are as a country. Could you serve somebody? Could you put somebody else first who thinks different politically than you do? Because that would be different than you, wouldn't it? Could you actually think of trying to help them along? Because what if helping them along helped their cause? You wouldn't want that, would you? You wouldn't want to help a cause that you don't believe in, would you? Because that would be like against what you're doing, trying to promote yourself and your cause. That's difficult, right? Some of it comes into religion. Not so much in non-denominational churches, but I know there are some denominations that think they're the only ones going to heaven. They're going to be honestly surprised when they get there. They might be different than you economically. They might be different from you racially. They might be different from you in what? You tell me. But I do know that one of the things that holds people back from serving other people is when people are not thinking and acting the same way that you think and act. You know what's interesting in churches, some of the stuff that I read? I'm going to ask you to think about something. What percentage of people at Stonebridge do you think and would vote and look at life the same way you do? You come to this church, what percentage of people in this church that you come to do you believe think, vote, look at life the same way you do? Half? 3/4? You think 80, 90% of the people that you sit with on a given Sunday think and act like you do? Most church people think that that's true. Most church people look around, and so when things hit, when crises come, and now our true colors come out, and you see people split, you know what you realize then? They really didn't think and act and see the world the way you see it. Third thing is why it's difficult is to care for you doesn't get me where I want to go. I think this is the biggest one. This is what the disciples faced. They wanted to be great, and in order for them to be great, they had to promote themselves. And if they were going to promote themselves, they didn't have time for the other guy. That's why in John 13, in just a few chapters, and in just a few months in history for these guys as you move forward, and Jesus is going to wash their feet because the servant boy wasn't there to do that for them, and they all looked and said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to wash your feet. I mean, I know it's customary, and I know like it's supposed to happen, but I'm not going to do it. Let you do it. I'm not going to fix the toilet. Let someone else fix the toilet. I'm not going to mow the yard. Let someone else mow the yard. I'm not going to wipe butts in the nursery. Let someone else do it. I'm not going to care for kids. Let someone else do it. I'm not going to lead a small group. Let someone else do it. I'm too busy. If I do that, I'm not going to be able to get out of life what I want to get out of life. And these guys were arguing about that. I want to be best. And so Jesus said to them, if you want to be first, first means primo. First means you got the finger up that says we're number one. Did you ever notice they never have a party for we're number two? Did anybody ever storm the field as the second place team in the national championship game? You went home as what? Say it. First loser. You outlasted all the other teams, but you're going to be known as the first loser because you're not number one. If you want to be number one, Jesus, that's what he's saying. You want to be top dog. You want to be the boss. You want to be the one that is thought of as the greatest show on earth. You want to be that person? Then Jesus says, you've got to be the very last, the servant of all. The word servant there is, I don't even know, I mean, I've got a list of words here that I thought of. If I ask you, what does a servant look like? You tell me. Is it the person that waits your table? Is it the person that busses your table? Is it the person that, what, sweeps up after you? Who is the servant in your mind? What does a servant look like? The word in the Greek is actually the word that we get deacons from. The church deacons are to be the head servants, the head waiters, those who will wait hand and foot on other people. That's the meaning of the word here. If you want to be top dog, Jesus says, in my kingdom, you've got to become last. You've got to become least. You've got to make a deliberate choice that other people are going to come before you. And that's where then he takes this child in his arms and he said, let's talk about this child. Why would Jesus hold up a child? They're trusting. James trusts us. Until such time, those of you, there's a couple of kids in here, until such time as an adult hurts you, You are a trusting person. But once you get hurt, once you get burned by an adult, you become a little less willing to believe what people tell you. And you run that through the filter of, I've been hurt before. Somebody told me they were going to do something. Somebody broke my trust, and it pains me. Some of you adults know what it's like to have trust broken. And you're still suffering today because someone broke your trust. Children are trusting. Children are dependent. Children need others to come alongside them and help them. And they're willing to accept that help. Somewhere we get up to being adults and we don't want other people's help. I don't want to listen to what you got to say. Got to make my own way. Got to do it my way, my thinking. Children aren't wired that way. What else about children? Why did he bring a child? And I think the greatest thing is this, that children are willing, hear me, I think children are willing to listen. We all get to a spot where we're like terrible twos and they don't seem to listen. I understand that. But generally speaking, when the trust is there and the love is there and the relationship is there, kids are willing to listen to us. And when you don't have love and you don't have trust and you don't have a relationship, you don't have people willing to listen. They say that children between the ages of 7 to 14 are most receptive to hearing about Jesus and putting their faith in him. They say that the stats, if they still bear true, are probably over half of people, I would say 60% of people, put their faith in Christ before the age of 18. And it's sort of interesting to ask yourself, well, what happens as you get older that makes you less likely to believe in Christ? And it's because you get set in your ways. Your brain gets wired. The Catholic Church used to say, if you give me a child up to the age of 7 or 8, I pretty much can form in them their values and what they believe and where they're headed. Think about that for a second, what it means for us as we work with children, as we do a VBS. Why did we break out and try and have a separate teen ministry for middle school students? Because we want them to come. They weren't coming. So we got some adults, and they stepped up and said, we'll do ministry for middle school kids. And now we've got 3 to 5 to 6 kids that are coming. Weren't coming before. We get a chance to speak Jesus to them. Get a chance to love on them. Jesus pulled a child in because children are most receptive to hearing about him, and I think about imparting in them life. Grandparents, do not dismiss the opportunities you have to pour into the life of your grandchild. There was a part of me that wondered what kind of a grandfather I would be. Fair? I mean, I know what kind of dad I was, and I think I was an okay dad. We all come from somewhere, and I won't bore you with my story, but I came from somewhere, and now I've got to do and be a dad, and now I get a chance of being a grandpa. And you know the way I look at it, I'm honestly viewing it, is a chance to build into this little guy that you saw up here. And maybe just a second generation behind mom and dad supporting what they're telling him and encouraging him on. Grandparents, don't miss the opportunities you have to love on your grandkids and build into them. Moms and dads, you're still the primary influence in your kid's life. Contrary to what society tells us, some of the stuff I read says, moms and dads, you are still the primary voice in the life of your kid. Seize on that. Love on them. Be that trusting adult in their life. And there's going to come pains of separation because that has to happen. Some of you are entering into the teen years. That was the most befuddling to me because I thought, man, I love you. I poured all myself into you, and now you're wanting to push away. But that's part of the natural progression of life. They have to push away. They have to learn what it's like to be independent. But that doesn't mean, moms and dads, that you need to push back. you keep reaching out, and you're always there for them. Jesus didn't accidentally pull in a child. When he wanted to talk to them about greatness, he said, look at this little one, make others central. So what does that look like then? What could it look like for us to be great? To like shoot for greatness, if you will. Great people make others feel valuable. Whoever welcomes one of these, and the word welcomes is, when was the last time you had company over? Recently? Some of you had open houses. We had a big wedding down in Dallas about 3 weeks ago where we weren't having people over, but we had the rehearsal dinner. We had 40-some people out for rehearsal dinner. The word welcome means to treat someone as you would a guest. And if you're doing it right with your guests, you want them to come in. You want them to feel important. You want them to feel like they mean something to you. And hopefully it's not fake. Some of you fake it. You really can't stand people, and your spouse wants people over, and so you've got to play the game. I get that. That was probably me for a large part of our marriage, all right? But Jesus said, whoever welcomes, whoever makes someone else feel valuable, whoever wants to see that person embraced, honored would be another way. How can you honor people? What can you do to make people feel worthwhile in your presence? What would that look like? Can I give you a couple things, seriously, that I really honestly every day try and work on? How about you make eye contact with people? You look them in the eye. How about you honestly give them a firm handshake and not a wimpy one? How about you actually say, man, it's good to see you? I was down in Dallas 2 weeks ago. I have a very good friend we've grown up with. When somebody does something good for you, there's a sense in which sometimes I say, I appreciate it. Like instead of thank you, I appreciate it. I was talking to Steve, and Steve said one of the things that he's heard in other parts of the country, catch this, and it was an interesting thought that we chatted on. He said instead of saying appreciate it, he said people are saying appreciate you. I appreciate you. Instead of saying thank you, I appreciate you. Whoa. I mean, you talk about catching somebody off guard. You went from thank you, which is perfunctory, to I appreciate you. Why is Chick-fil-A, and when they say my pleasure, which is sort of not now a big deal, but at the time really was a big deal, why was saying my pleasure sort of like, whoa? Because no one does it. Everybody says thank you, right? But they say my pleasure. It's really my, and I don't know they mean it. I know it's taught. I know it's a cultural thing. But I promise you, I've never heard it at McDonald's. I've never heard it at Arby's. I've never heard it at Wendy's. I've never heard it at Longhorn. I've never heard it at Texas Roadhouse. I've never heard other people say, my pleasure. Why is that? Because I don't think they value it as a part of their culture. What if we could become, what if you and I, if greatness looks like this, that you treat people with dignity and respect because they're made in the image of God, and words like my pleasure, words like thank you, words like how you doing, and actually mean it. We're part of your daily interacting with people. You want to make other people feel great? It starts with how you treat them. Look for ways to include and notice other people. Jesus takes this child and he brings that child into the conversation. How many of us just go on our way and we don't notice, we don't see what people are doing? Alan Godby sitting back there on sound. I got a text from him on Thursday night. We were trying to get the lawn mowed. Our lawnmower has been in the shop. So he texts me Thursday night. I'm sitting home. Patty's out doing something. I'm just watching stuff on my iPad, and I get a text, Alan Ferguson's mowing the yard. And I'm like, what is he doing? I had just gotten off the phone. I was going to pay someone $100 to come mow the churchyard. And I got a dude up here in the heat mowing the yard with a push mower. He's going to have a heart attack. So trust me, What do I do in that moment? Because I'm comfortable in my chair with my iPad. Don't lose that. I'm in air conditioning. I hop in my car and I come over here. Partly to chew him out. Partly because I wanted to show I appreciate the fact that, dude, you came over and you got the mower out and you just mowed. And then I'm going to honor Bob because Bob and Alan came back on Friday night and they mowed for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And why did they do it? Why did they do it? Because we're trying to have people on the grounds tonight to watch the fireworks, and we had weeds all over. As simple as that. You want to throw your blanket out when you got weeds that are knee-high all over the property? You want to have your kids run through our weeds? It's really attractive, isn't it? Look for ways to notice and include others. A few weeks back, I had you guys write on the cards, what is it that you think people need? Some of you did that. Do you want to know what you said people need? This is not me making this up. This is you. People need more grace, specifically when it comes to differences in opinion. People need compassion and grace towards others. People need to be able to have people that share with them, to help them deal with loneliness and help with their needs. People need emotional support. Let me just go on, a couple more. People need to find Jesus. People need to feel accepted and valued. People need to belong. That's what you said people need. That's what Jesus talked about. So the other thing I found interesting about that is we agree with Jesus. We agree with Jesus. CEO of Popeye Chicken, I believe it is a believer. They, in their book, Dare to Serve, How to Drive Superior Results by Serving Others, she shared this thought. She has Philippians 2:3 on her desk. That verse says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. She said, I really like the choice of words around counting others more significant than yourselves. It really has to mean you look at other people and you say they are valuable. That's what it means to count them. You make a deliberate choice that they are worthwhile. She says, because I believe that if it were our choice, we would still be laying on the floor kicking and screaming because we didn't get the candy bar we wanted. We're pretty hardwired that we're self-absorbed little people, but we learn to fake it as we grow up. But inside, we're all still pretty much that 2-year-old that wants what they want. I've got to make a deliberate choice to look at you, to include you, to notice you. What do you notice about other people? You know what's hard? Just to be straight up. You come in here on Sunday, and you're going to leave in about 10 minutes. You're going to walk in. Some of you walk in about 3 minutes too, and then you walk out. And you don't take the time to have a conversation, to say hi, to say, how was your week? And I know why. Because you're too busy. That's not it. You're afraid. You're afraid to be known, and you're afraid for someone to know you. Because if that stuff comes out, they won't really like you. So it's easier just to pretend. And that's why, I'm not trying to be crass, that's why so few of you have friends. You're not willing to be known, and you're not willing to know other people. And Jesus said, if you want to be great, notice other people. Value other people. And the third thing I put up there is get along with other people. Don't be looking to fight all the time. You don't have to be right about everything. Have you ever heard the expression, I don't want to die on that hill? What does it mean? It means there are some battles that just aren't worth fighting. And for some of you, every battle, everything, every argument, you got to win. Like, why? I bet I know why, but again, you're not going to like the answer. You feel like you've got to win every argument because you feel like if you lose, you'll be less of a person. And it will damage your ego. And it will hurt your sense of self-worth. A strong person knows they don't have to win every argument. A strong person knows when they can let stuff go. This just doesn't matter. I really just don't care about this. And knowing what are the big things and what are the little things is one of the ways that you will know you're progressing as an adult. And I didn't say age. I didn't say getting older. I said progressing as an adult on the inside. My kid had a mohawk. Joe, if you're watching, and I know you're not, I hated the mohawk. I honestly did. Part of me had to wrestle with this. What are people going to think about the pastor dad who lets their kid wear a mohawk? And once I could get past the sense of like, it's his hair, it's his head, I don't care. I'm not dying over whether he has a mohawk or not. I didn't fight battles over clean bedrooms. Really didn't. Didn't matter to me. I don't have to live in it. You do. What battles do you want to fight over? What things are you fighting over in your house now that drive you crazy that if you honestly took a step back and said, is this really such a big deal? Because if that's a big deal, what happens to the next big deal? How do your kids know what's really big deals? And like big deals because everything's a big deal because you fight over everything. You're not getting along at work? Why are you not getting along at work? What are you fighting over at work that you're not getting along? Is it worth fighting over? Is it worth your peace? Some things are. Don't get me wrong. But I think when John said to Jesus, hey, he's not doing it like we do it, Jesus. He's not walking with us. He didn't go to your class last week. He's doing that, and Jesus was like, can you just chill? You know, he's doing a good thing. And one that even gives a cup of water in my name. Whoever welcomes me. What if we could treat each other that way? What if we could see each other in the body of Christ that way? But no, I know we won't. Because we are small people sometimes. And Jesus calls us to be larger, bigger. Why? Because he's bigger. Why? Because he says he walks with us. To give us the ability to think and value things differently than the way that culture values things. Praise team's coming up. As they come up, hey, don't, wait, Kathy, stay right there. Stay right there. Yeah, both of you. Here's how I honestly wanted to end this message. There are a number of great people in this church that I don't want us to miss. Kathy and her team that are back there every week, they get the stuff out for you. And you come in and you eat it and you drink it and you don't bat an eyelash, yet people come early to have it ready and they're going to go and they're going to clean up after our mess after you go home. Thank you. Those guys in the booth, they put up with a lot, except when the tech thing doesn't work. And everybody's back there going, tech guy, why can't you get this thing to work? And yet they keep coming out and getting this ready so that we can sing and so that we can have slides and so that we can see videos so that the service is better for us. People who are out there mowing, they mow their own yards and then they come out here and they mow the church yard. And there's a team of them. It's not the same person every week, but they come out when they could be at home on their iPad in the air conditioning of their house, but they come out and they make sure the grounds look good. There are people that love your kids and have been back there faithfully every Sunday, making sure that our kids are taught the truth about Jesus and loved on. There are adults working with our teens that come up on Wednesday or back in a class on a Sunday or taking time out of their schedule to go do an event with kids so that kids know that they're loved on. Because hopefully, you know what my prayer is? Let's say right now we have, and it's not a stretch, we have maybe 45 kids that call Stonebridge home between nursery through high school. 45 kids. What if one of them became a pastor? What if one of them became a youth pastor somewhere? What if one of them joined the staff at Crew and started working with college kids in the city? Wouldn't that be cool? It absolutely would be. That's why we do it. So that then the rest that maybe, well, Mike, does that mean that they just, if they go to work at Boeing? No. What if they're working at Boeing to the glory of God? What if they go on and they're flipping burgers, but Jesus uses them as they talk about their faith while they're flipping burgers? Is that worth it? Absolutely, all day, every day. There are a number of great people in this church. So please don't hear in this like I'm down. I'm not. I am thrilled at the number of what I think are people that put others first. What I want to remind you is this. If you do that, if you serve others and you put other people first, you won't come in second. You won't lose. Take that to Jesus and ask him, God, how can you use me? Would you do that? Let's stand and sing with these guys.